when the new term starts. So if you are in year 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, reception and nursery, you will be going back in September into a new year group. If you are in year 11, then you will have taken your exams. You'll be waiting anxiously for your mark, your grade, and I can tell you it's going to be good anyway. And then you might be going on to college. You might be going on to do a vocational course. You might be going on to do some plumbing training. You might be going on to do some law, some work in medical field. There's lots of things that you might be doing. So when we talk about end of year, I mean end of year for year up to year 10, but the end of year 11, if you are going back to do your A levels, then obviously it includes you as well. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to go through the main examinations that we have in our schools, i.e. the MTC, the multiplication tables check for year 4, the year 6 SATs, the GCSE for year 11s, and then the end of year 10, year 9, year 8 assessments for the other year groups. So we're going to be looking at how did it go? How did you find the paper? Did you enjoy it? Did you find it easy? Did you find it challenging? And what's next for you as well? But let me share some exciting, really exciting news with you. Some of you will remember, well, hopefully all of you will remember, that I invited some work experience young people, students, to come into the studio and to get some work experience of what is it like working in a studio and hosting a math show. So we had some young people who came into the studio and they were watching, they were asking me questions, they asked me questions, I asked them questions, and they learnt about the runnings of a radio station in the studio. Well, there's a really, really lovely, supportive, very popular MP, and her name is Dawn Butler, and she's a Brent MP, and she has very, very kindly accepted my invitation to come into Chalk Hill Community Radio Station next week, and she is going to be talking to the same work experience students that I had working with me and coming to shadow me last time, and she's going to be advising them about what to do next, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully she will invite them into Parliament to see what happens. What does her role involve as an MP? But not only that, the work experience students are going to be going into the Civic Centre in Brent to find out what a councillor, what a Brent councillor does. So what we're doing on Chalk Hill Community Radio is we are supporting, we are recognising, we are appreciating our young people who traditionally are in year 10, but they could be older. It could be older than year 10. You could be in year 11 and not too sure about what to do. You could be older still. So having someone coming in from the government, Dawn Butler MP, so thank you, Dawn, for taking up the invitation, and talking to you about what her job involves and giving you that direction, signposting you, encouraging you, building up your confidence. This is what our young people need. And thankfully, we are going to have Dawn Butler in next week, Thursday. It's going to be on a Thursday at 3 o'clock, between 3 and 4 p.m. Next week, Thursday, which is the 30th, Dawn Butler MP will be coming into the Chalk Hill Community Radio Station studio, and she will be asking these young work experience students, what have you been doing? What did you do? How did you find it? How are you going to use what you have learned on work experience in school, in your everyday life? And these young work experience students are going to be asking Dawn Butler about different jobs. And Dawn Butler is particularly interested in girls and women, Black African girls and women, and Caribbean as well. and making sure that they aim high and they get into the best, highest positions when it comes to work. So, politicians like Dawn, doctors, nurses, accountants, lawyers, architects, all of these things are going to be what we're going to be discussing next week when Dawn Butler comes into Chalk Hill Community Radio Station. But do you know what? Let's get on with today's show. Okay, so shall we go in? We'll go in age order. So we're going to start with year 4. And year 4s this year in June, they did their MTC, the multiplication tables check. Now, because each individual year 4 pupil up and down the country, each individual year 4 pupil, they got their own set of 25 questions. And a set of 25 questions is called a lot. So LOT. So each year 4 pupil across the whole country, they got their own set of 25 questions. But as I've been saying, what I saw this year, and I observed different pupils in different schools up and down the country, mainly in London, how they were interacting and engaging with the MTC. And what I saw was really, really encouraging. I saw that a lot more of these young year 4s, and they are 8, 9 years old, they were very, very fast on the device that they were using. Why? Because I have been advocating that when you are working with year 4s from the beginning of September, I start working with the year 3s in the summer term before they go into year 4 in the autumn term. I start working with them, and I suggest to schools that you start working with the year 3s in the second half of the summer term, getting them ready to using the same device that they will be using in June the following year. It's got to be the same device so that they understand where the digits are, where the buttons are, where you press enter. Because if they don't have that constant experience, or if you suddenly present the device to them on the day, that's when the panic sets in. They're not too sure of the buttons, where the buttons are, where the digits and the numbers are, where the enter button is. And because you, schools, teachers, parents and families, so well done, thank you, because you've been working with your young people and encouraging them to use that same device, it made a big difference. So one school that I go into regularly to work with the teachers, parents, and the young people, last year, the percentage of year 4s who got 25 out of 25 last year was I think 64%. This year, it had jumped to 87% of those year 4 pupils. Why? Because we started the young year 4s using the same device. It can't be a different device. Well, it can be if you've got no option, but to get the best results is the same device that that particular pupil will be using in their MTC. Because that way they feel confident, they log in with confidence, they know where all the buttons are. I play a little game where they close their eyes and they have to press a particular digit. That's towards the end of May. And when they can do that, you know that they've got that manipulation of the keyboard. They've got that command of the keyboard. They know where the individual digits are. They know where the enter button is. It makes a big difference. So if you're listening out there, please, teachers, the same device, start from day one. Whatever device they're going to be using, that's the one that they use for the MTC. So in the MTC for year 4's multiplication tables check, there were lots and lots of questions that were based on square numbers. And I've been an advocate of teaching year 3, summer term, it can be sooner if they're ready, but teaching young children about what is a square number, what makes a square number a square number, Why do we call them square numbers? And you know that I've been teaching about square numbers all of the year, all of the year that's just the school that's just gone past. If you're looking at 3 squared, which means 3 times 3, you're going to have 3 dots in a row, and you're going to have 3 rows. So 3, 3, and 3. When you join the corners up, what shape do they make? A square. That's why we call these particular numbers square numbers. And as the children get older, they start to learn different terminology like indices and index numbers and so on and so on. So square numbers came up a lot. So did multiples of 11. I was really surprised. I was in one particular school, and I was just watching about 2 or 3 children doing the MTC at the same time. And I just noticed that each of them had at least four questions that were from the 11 times table. And so 11 times table is a really popular one because it crosses it comes into all of the other times tables. So you've got 11 times 4, 11 times 6, 11 times 7, but then you've got 12 times 11, 10 times 11. But please make sure you know your square numbers and your 11s. Another thing that's really important when it comes to understanding, knowing, and learning about the MTC. MTC stands for multiplication tables check, and it's only a check, it's not a test. So we must not put that pressure and create anxiety and fear and worry about the MTC. It is a check. That means how much do you know, and whatever you don't know, what support will you be given in year 5? It's a check. But there's something called commutative law. And all that means is, in the MTC, you will not get a question, for example, 4 times 5 and then 5 times 4, because it's exactly the same question, but written around the other way, and you get the same answer. So you can have 4 times 5, then you can have 2 times 10, because they are 2 different multiplication facts, but they do not give you 4 times 5 and then 5 times 4. You will not be given 5 times 3 and then 3 times 4, or 7 times 6 and then 6 times 7. That is what we call commutative, and it's the same question written around the other way, so it's a bit unfair, so we don't do that. Also, when I'm working with teachers, I always say to teachers, there are certain numbers in the multiplication table, and remember, we only go up to 12 times 12. So there are 144 individual questions. Some of those numbers are numbers like 24, 36, 12, 48, 14. Why are they special? Because 40, not 14, 40. They are special because there are 2 or 3 ways of making each of those numbers. For example, if I take 36, you can make 36 by doing 6 times 6, 3 times 12, and 4 times 9. If I take 48, you can make 48 by doing 6 times 8 and 12 times 4. So there are 2 or 3 ways of making each of those special numbers. And in the MTC, I've noticed recently over the last 3 years, a lot of those numbers come up 2 or 3 times. So you might have 4 times 9, then you might have 3 times 12, then you might have 6 times 6, which is a square number. So each of those gives the answer of 36, but they are each 3 different questions. So it's not commutative. So please make sure your children know about, I could go through them all because I have them in my mind, but numbers like 40, 60, 12, 18, 16, 24, put myself on the spot now, 24, 30, 10 times 3, 6 times 5, 36, 40, 48, 60. These numbers have got 2 or 3 multiplication facts that make that number. Now, when you give children, when they are secure with those numbers, they've got through at least nearly 20 of the 144 questions in the times table grid. It's so important, so important. And when I'm teaching the MTC, I give my children, I say to them, 6 times 7, and then I give them a choice of 3 answers. Is 6 times 7 41? Is it 42? Or is it 48? And they have to circle the correct answer, which was 42. But that gets them thinking. I give children true or false questions. For example, all multiples of 5 end with a 5 or a 0. True or false? Well, it's true. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on. 5, 0, 5, 0. So you're getting children thinking creatively and outside of the box. I take children shopping, not literally shopping, but I create a shop in the classroom and I give each item a price, and each of those prices is a multiplication table. So for example, an apple might cost 4p, a packet of popcorn might cost 12p, a piece of a vegetable might cost 6p. And then I say to the children, you have to buy 3 of one, 4 of another one, 5 of another one. And what are they doing? They are using their understanding and knowledge of the multiplication tables, but for a real life purpose. So when I go shopping, oh, it's crazy when I go shopping. I have such a good time. When I go shopping, whatever goes into my basket, I'm keeping a running total of what is in my basket. So by the time I get to the checkout, I have already worked out the total of my shopping. And when I say to the cashier, it's going to be £84, 12 pence or whatever it is. And when it comes to that amount, even when there's special offers, buy one, get one free, buy 3, get the fourth one free, all of that I take into account and I get the number right. They look at me and think, how did you do that? That's why I'm Mr. Numbervator. But anyway, we can bring maths to the real world. I use teaching the times tables with Venn diagrams, Carroll diagrams, tri-Venn diagrams. So there's different ways of teaching about the multiplication tables to prepare our young people. Okay, function machines. In goes 6. The function is times in by 4. 6 times 4, 24. In goes 9. The function is times in by 4. 9 times 4, 36. That comes out. So it's like a game. I remember once I actually made a real function machine, and a young child was able to sit in the function machine. And when someone posted a number into the machine, the child had to work out what the answer was and then shoot the answer through the out exit slot in the machine. It was honestly, it was such good fun. And in an assembly, imagine you've got Ofsted inspectors coming in to watch. Can you imagine the thrill of a young person going into this little box, it's a bill box you can sit in, and then someone pushes in a number, they have to work out the calculation according to what the function is, and they have to give you the answer. Inspectors love that because it's real. You can get the youngest of children feeding a number in and then looking for the answer and reading the answer. That is interactive. That is what makes an assembly come alive. So teachers, I've given you a great idea that you can use. This is what the math show is all about. Okay, I can't wait for next week with Dawn Butler when she comes in on Thursday. It's going to be such an exciting time. So listeners, you've got to listen in Thursday between 3 and 4. Dawn Butler will be in the Chalker Community Radio Station studio with 4 or 5 work experience students, and she's going to be asking them, how did your work experience go? And 3 of the 4 are going to be young girls, young women. And this is a particular focus for Dawn Butler, making sure that our young women, our Black, African, Caribbean young women have access to the best of jobs, employment when they leave school. And having maths as something, as a good, strong foundation, that is what Dawn's talking about. Having a subject like maths gives you that access. And they're going to be interviewing Dawn Butler MP. It's going to be such an exciting interview next week. So next week, Thursday, on Chalkwood Community Radio Station, Dawn Butler will be with Mr. Numbervator, and we're going to be talking about work experience and what that means. Okay, so we've looked at the MTC for year 4s. MTC, M stands for multiplication, T stands for tables, and C stands for check. Please keep telling your pupils, that it is not a test, it is a check. So whatever mark they get, that reflects where they're at, we're happy with that. If they get 1 out of 25, because they've struggled, but they've got 1, brilliant. We know what to do with them in year 5. If they get 0, we know how to work with them and support them in year 5. If they get 20, brilliant. If they get 25, brilliant. Whatever mark they get is a reflection of what you know, where you're at, and the school, people like me, we will support you. Okay, now year 6, oh my gosh, the year 6 SATs. Well, I found the year 6 SATs really quite exciting. I thought that it was quite a nice paper, especially the arithmetic paper, which is the first paper. I found it to be approachable, and I found out that the individual questions that were given, it was not a shock. It was nothing that you couldn't answer or you couldn't work out. Yeah, and I think it was really fair. The results are out, and I'm sure, or I know that everyone did well. But anyway, the year 6 SATs, and I'm just looking at the math SATs, yeah? So with the year 6 SATs, there was questions on money, shape, 3D shapes, angles, coordinates, and there was a lot going on. There was lots of nice, interesting questions that allowed the year 6 pupils to really get into what they know and what they understand. But here's the one suggestion that I'm going to make this what time is it? Is it evening or afternoon? I'm going to make this after. It's not yet 6 o'clock. I'm going to make this afternoon. Teachers, parents, please equip your children, your pupils, with the bank of vocabulary that they will need to use in their SATs. Start them off end of year 5, going into year 6. Choose the words that come up regularly all the time. There was one question that I saw, and a lot of children, a lot of the year 6s didn't know what it means. They didn't know what it meant. And that was the word starting with the least amount. Starting with the least amount, L-E-A-S-T, the least amount means starting with the smallest amount. But because they didn't understand the word least, they didn't answer the question, or they could not answer the question. So maths vocabulary is really important. Don't just teach them the word, but use the word in questions. Make an expectation on them that when you write your written answer, you must use that particular word if it's, for example, least. Because that way, when they become familiar with reading it, hearing it, understanding it, they will use it with a lot more confidence. So mathematical vocabulary, not just for year 6, not just for the MTC in year 4, but right up to GCSE in year 11. Vocabulary is really, really important. And a lot of children, because they didn't understand the specific vocabulary, when they were reading the question, they weren't really able to make complete sense of the question, because you have to unpick the question. When I'm training teachers, I always say to them, get your pupils to underline the key words. And in the Key Stage 2 SATs, the year 6, a lot of the key words are actually in bold black letters, but not all of them. So children need to go through, read the question, make sure they understand what is expected of them, and then answer the question with confidence. So that's the year six. Now we're going to go for a short ad break. When we come back, I'm going to be going through some of the arithmetic questions and some of the reasoning two and reasoning three for the year six SATs. And then we're going to finish up with the GCSE maths. Yay! My favorite paper of all time. My favorite paper, paper one, paper two, and paper three. Paper one, non-calculator, paper two, and paper three, a calculator. That's for the GCSE maths, yeah, foundation and higher. I found paper one this year, to be fair, but we're going to come on to that later on after the short ad break. Thank you to the teacher who sent me the message about maths vocabulary. It is important. It is important that we as teachers and adults and parents, anyone involved with the education of young people, we've got to use the correct vocabulary in the correct context. And then we have to expect our young people to use it back to us correctly as well. If we place high expectations on our young people, they will aim high and they will be the best. Don't go too far. I always say, don't go too far. We will be back shortly after the short ad break.
tutors with all the difference to my knowledge.
Whether you're passionate about hair and beauty,
Or you could pursue a technical program.
or are aiming for university, we have course for you.
thanks to CNWL, I'm added my dream apprenticeship and I'm well on my way to a successful career.
Apply today at cnwl.ac.uk.
The College of North West London, where your future begins.
And it's time for a conversation that brings us to see what project is here. Go to www.sovereigncomics.co.uk and get your latest issue of Mr. Numbervator's Mass Comic Book series today. You are now tuned into the Mr. Numbervator show every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Tokyo Community Radio Station. Let's get mathematical.
Hello, welcome back to part 2 of the math show with me, Mr. Numbervator, on Chalk Hill Community Radio Station. And I'm going to say good evening and welcome back because it's gone past 6 o'clock. So between 5:30 and 6, we can still say afternoon. And after 6 o'clock, we then say evening. So welcome back, good evening. And it's the math show with me, Mr. Numbervator, on Chalk Hill Community Radio Station. And just to give you my exciting news, next Thursday between 3 and 4 p.m, next Thursday, we've got Dawn Butler, MP, coming in to the Chalk Hill Community Radio Studios and me, the math show. And Dawn Butler, MP, is going to be working with, talking to, engaging with our work experience students who were here last time. But more importantly, it's about girls, young girls, women, Black, African, Caribbean, young girls, women, boys as well, young men. It's about what can we give our young children? What can we offer? What can we provide for them so that they get the best in industries like, or in jobs like politics. It could be a job in the media, accountant, lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. Those top high profile jobs that we don't reflect ourselves in across the country. That's why Dawn's coming into support. And that's why I'm looking forward to next week, Thursday, not Wednesday, Thursday, between the hour of 3 and 4 p.m. But don't worry, publicity and promotion will be sent out in advance. The year 6 arithmetic, there was one question that I thought was really sneaky, but actually it was a really good question. And when you see it written on the paper, I can see the reason why it was chosen, because for me, it was quite exciting. And the question was 5,555 plus 555 plus 55. So let me read a question out to you. 5,555, that's 5,555 plus 555 plus 55 equals. I would have gone a step further and put 5,555 plus 555 plus 55 plus 5. That's what I would have done. But I didn't write the question. But it was an exciting question, and it allowed the year 6 pupil to do a lot of carrying and you know, all the little activity, all the little techniques and strategies that we teach them, how to add and to multiply and to divide and subtract. That question was quite a nice question. Another question that came up was 99 divided by 9. Now, you can use short division, i.e. the bus stop method, but if you know that 11 times 9 is 99, then you know 99 divided by 9 is 11. So they were playing about with the 11 times table from year 4 MTC and making sure that the year 6 pupils who are aged 10, 11, going on to 12 for year 7, that they understand the relationship between multiplication and related division facts and so on and so on. So that was a really, really nice question. Another question was to do with fractions, where you had to use addition, subtraction, multiplication or division to add or whatever with fractions with the same denominator, and then also fractions with different denominators. So if they're different denominators, you've got to find a common denominator. So there's different strategies and rules that we use. But here is, I think, my favorite question that came up in the arithmetic paper. And the question was very simple: 72 divided by 4. Now, I just watched a lot of year sixes. They did it by short division. They did it by adding 4 each time. But I have taught to, whenever you are dividing by 5, it's simple. You halve and then half again. That's all you have to do. Half and half again. So 72 divided by 4 is the same as half of 72, which is 36, and half of 36 is 18. So 72 divided by 4 is 18. That can save you lots of valuable seconds and minutes in a test. So if you've got 100 divided by 4, half of 100 is 50, half of 50 is 25. If you have got 36 divided by 4, half of 36 is 18, half of 18 is 9. Now, I know a lot of you are sitting there, oh, what happens if they give you a number that's got an odd digit in the ones column, like 37? Well, you can still apply that strategy, but you're going to get decimal answers. But the strategy, the rule stays the same. So next time you see a question where you are dividing by 4, half and half again. And that was taught to me by my primary school teacher, Mrs. Tate. That's how I love maths. Dividing by 4, half and half again. Because when you're dividing by 2, you halve. So dividing by 4, you halve and half again. So now I'm going to give you a challenge. If you're dividing by 8, do you halve and half again? That's a challenge. Investigate. This is where maths comes alive. This is what makes mathematics so exciting. There were some lovely questions to do with percentages. So I think there was one that was 70% of a whole number. And, you know, you can do 10% times that by 7. You can do 50% and add 10 plus 10. There are different ways of solving and calculating the answer. But that's what we do really well in the primary school. So that when our year 6s start year 7 in the September, they've got some secure, well-rounded, and they are confident with the key skills, the 4 operations, percentages, decimals, fractions, and so on. But there was an interesting question that came up in the arithmetic for year 6s. And the question was 80 subtract 4 cubed. Now, we do teach indices. I just mentioned indices to you when we was talking about the MTC. It starts from end of year 3 and it comes into year 6 and up to year 11. What does 4 cubed mean? Well, 4 squared means 4 times 4. You're multiplying the same digit by itself. So the 4 is the base number, and the 2 above it means it's 4 times 4, not 2 times 4, not 2 lots of 4s, but 4 times 4. So 4 cubed means 4 times 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 times 16 is 64. So that question was really asking the young people, the year 6 to do 80, subtract 64, and then they're going to get an answer of 16, which is 4 squared. But do you know what? That was a really nice question. It wasn't my favorite question because I have seen some schools who do not teach about cube numbers. They teach about square numbers really well, but I think that teachers, you need to go a bit further and be teaching about cube numbers because it's come up for year 6 and it'll come up again in the future. multiplication using decimals. Now, this is a really, really nice question that came up. I'm going to read a question out to you, and it was 0.09 multiplied by 24. 0.09 multiplied by 24. And some children, they wanted to do that. Some year sixes wanted to get the answer by putting 0.09 and put 24 underneath the 0.9, and they got really, really confused. Now, there are strategies, there's methods for teaching you how to get this answer with confidence, okay? Very quickly, how many digits are there after the decimal point in 0.09? There are 2 digits. So that means in your answer, there has to be 2 digits after the decimal point. You see? So I'm going to now do 24 multiplied by 9. 9 times 4 is 36. 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 3 is 20. After the decimal point, well, I've just got 24 multiplied by 9. I have got 216, okay? So now, if I now tell you that 0.09 multiplied by 24, the answer is 2.16. And what did I say to you earlier? I said to you, there has to be 2 digits after the decimal point. 24 multiplied by 9 is 216. So my decimal point is after the 6th digit, that's in the ones column. And so because we want to get 2 digits after the decimal point, we're going to divide by 10 and 10 again. And that gives us 2.16. So it was a fair question, but I saw a lot of young people get really, really confused with how to answer that particular question. So it was a nice paper. The usual suspects came up, you know, multiplying a 3-digit by a 2-digit, long division, percentages of amounts, big mass. It was a nice paper, and you can get it online. You can get it now that the paper's been sacked, SAT. Now that the paper's been taken, you can actually get it online, so you can go through it and see how you did with it. And parents and carers, there's no harm in you downloading the paper and encouraging your young year 6 who's going to go into year 7 just to go through some questions, maybe 5 a day, 10 a day, just to keep them up to date with their mental calculations, because you will see the fruit of that when they start year 7. So the 2 reasoning papers, once again, I thought were very, very fair. Now, remember I said to you earlier about the vocabulary. It was in the reasoning paper where you got the word least, starting with the least number. That means starting with the smallest number. And it was about ordering numbers, starting with the least, put these numbers in order. Some children did not understand what the word least, L-E-A-S-T, what it meant. So they became a little bit stuck. And I saw some wonderful answers that were written down. But do you know what? It's done and dusted. So, but please, teachers, some of the vocabulary that comes up in the SATs, go through some old papers and pick the pertinent ones that keep coming up all the time, and make sure that children understand, know, they can use verbally and written so they understand. So ordering numbers, ordering decimal numbers was a lovely one. Complete in a bar chart. I love charts and graphs. But interesting, this year you had bar charts, you had pie charts, and you had line graphs coming up in the reasoning papers. So what does that tell us? That we need to be teaching children about line graphs, bar charts, pie charts, pictograms. We need to make sure that we expose them to different types of charts and graphs so that they understand how to read, interpret, and complete. Okay? So it's really, really important they understand. Shapes. especially 3D shapes, a lot of children did not know what a cone is or a cylinder. So sometimes when I'm working with young children, I will take in some tins of baked beans, chopped tomatoes, and talk about what a cylinder is and what it looks like. A cone, well, you can talk about an ice cream cone, but show them what a real cone looks like as a shape so that they associate the word cone, C-O-N-E, with the shape itself. Money, I did listen when I was doing my revision on the math show in the studio. I said money will come up, and I know that a lot of us, me included, we're moving towards debit cards, credit cards on the mobile, but children and even adults still need to be knowing about money, how to give money, what money to expect to receive as change. It's really, really important. Money is important. Area and perimeter. I remember doing it on the math show, the difference between area and perimeter. And I remember drawing a rectangle and talking about how to calculate area and perimeter, and also area of a, what do you call it? That shape that's got a slope in it. I'm talking about maths all the time that I just forget sometimes with the different names. But different shapes that come up, they'll come to my head in a minute, and how to calculate the area of different shapes that might not be a rectangle, might not be a square, but different shapes that maybe you've got a rectangle and you've got a triangle on the end. You know, all these different shapes that children need to know how to break them up, rectilinear shapes and so on. Rounding, there was a question on rounding that a lot of young people weren't too sure about. Ratio, which is one of my favorite topics. Ratio, proportion. Angles is another one. Negative numbers, and relate negative numbers to, because that's what children can relate to. When it's winter, you have to wear gloves and mittens and balaclavas and whatever. But when it's summer, you're in a t-shirt or a vest. So temperature, cooking food, let the young people understand why and how we use negative numbers. So that was reasoning 2 and reasoning 3. The GCSE, my favorite GCSE. I thought it was a really nice, the 3 papers, paper 1 is calculator, and paper 2 and paper 3 are non-calculator. I found paper 1 challenging, but doable. Yeah, all the usual topics that were meant to come up, they did come up. Okay, mixed numbers with fractions, algebra, ratio, polygons, all of the usual areas that come up, they came up. So it's not that you couldn't do it, it's just that you had to dig deep into what you know and what you know. Paper 2, standard form. Standard form we did on the radio show. I remember doing all of these topics that came up, we did them on the radio show. So what does that show you? Listen to the radio show every Wednesday, and we build you up to the GCSEs. We build you up to year 6. We build you up to the MTC in year 4. We are constantly preparing you, giving you that confidence, filling you with knowledge, engaging with adults, teachers, head teachers, inspectors, the whole gambit, the whole range. We do it on the math show. Paper 3, multi-step questions, bearings, indices that we're teaching from year 4. It does come into GCSE, foundation and higher tier. In paper 2, we had compound interest, algebra, transformations. Everything that was meant to come up, it indeed came up this year. So as we approach the end of total, some schools have not finished yet, they're going to finish today and tomorrow. As we come to the end of the school year, I just want to say well done to all of you young people from year 2 to year 11 and beyond. Well done. Your tenacity, that means your determination not to give up. I've noted it and I've noticed it. Okay, you have been outstanding, phenomenal. And remember, some of these year groups that I've mentioned, you are the ones that you, because of COVID. But look at how much you've caught up. Look at how much you've caught up. Look at what your teachers have done for you. Look at how your teachers and your parents and families, look at what they've done for you. They've supported you. They've encouraged you. And more important, they've loved you. They've given you a sense of fulfillment, and they've given you a sense of do your best. And when you do your best, that will be good for me. So all of you out there, it's just left for me to say, have a nice break. Now, I'm going to take a sort of break, but I'm still going to be working throughout the summer, because what I do is I prepare different year groups for the new coming year. So year 7s, I prepare for year 8, year 10s for year 11, and so on. So I'm still working, but I'm still maybe not getting up at 6:30 in the morning or 6 in the morning and rushing down the North Circular. But I'm about. So if you do need me for anything, you know how to contact me. Sovereigncomics.co.uk, you can contact me on. Mr. Numbervator, you can contact me on Dr_knows_it@hotmail.com. Dr_knows_it, NOSE as in nose, ZIT @hotmail.com. Sovereign Comics, all one word, .co.uk. Or contact me on 07535 644 850. Can I just say thank you to all of the teachers out there who work so hard, and teachers, I'm including TAs, teachers, we're all in it together. It's not because you're a teacher that you're anyone different. We are all in this together. Not because you're an inspector, you're anyone different. Because you're a head teacher, we are all in this together. So we have all got ownership with making sure our young people achieve and aim high and reach the highest that they can get. Have a great summer. Have a nice rest. Sleep in. Play your games. Roblox, FIFA, GTA, whatever games you play. Dean's looking at me. How do I know all these? Well, I know them all, Dean. Whatever games you play, you can play them until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but don't say I said. But make sure your bedroom stays tidy, and make sure you do your household chores that you're meant to do. Have a great summer. The maths show will be coming back to you the last week of August, preparing you for the new term in September. Don't forget next Thursday, the maths show special with Mr. Numbervator, work experience students, and the one and only, the fabulous, famous, the best MP, Dawn Butler, will be in the studio to share her experience of work with work experience students. Have a great evening. It's after 6, so good evening. Have a great evening, and see you all soon next Thursday. Bye-bye. Thank you.